And I was honored to get what's called a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the guy who gave me the award, I go, I'm not accepting this award. And Rachel Barr, who works, she's like, yeah, typical Jerry. He's not. I'm like, I'm going to rename the award. And I'm going to call it a half of a Lifetime Achievement Award because I'm not done yet, like literally. And then I posted on my LinkedIn a picture of my Lincoln Navigator in the parking lot of our Muskego Biotech building by itself. And I just said, I'm not done yet, like literally. And wanted to put it out there to the world to say, we got more stuff to do. We have more people to grow, more things to grow and be involved in building things. So you kind of got to get over yourself a little bit. You can't think that you've arrived. And the day that you feel you've arrived is kind of the day that you have to get out, right?
Welcome, everybody, back to the Pay It Forward podcast. I am one of your hosts, Austin Seward, along with my co-host, Keegan Walls. And today I am super excited. We have my good friend, Jerry Jendusa. Jerry is somebody that I have looked up to for all of my life. We were neighbors. I was growing up. Jerry was an adult.
I'm still not an adult, but I appreciate that.
But we were neighbors, and Jerry's always been somebody that I looked up to in business. He started a company out of his basement and grew it to over $100 million international business. Has a bunch of stories and trials and tribulations that I'm sure you've learned along the way that you're here to share with us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, appreciate that. It was a great drive up from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
A little bit of snow. Happy to be in La Crosse.
Yeah.
Love
and
La Crosse.
Crazy busy. You were in Kentucky yesterday.
We're trying to
drove up 3 hours to La Crosse from Milwaukee today. You're going to do a speaking event after this, and then you have another event in Mogul tonight.
Yeah. This is awesome. What a day.
Yeah.
I love
Thank you for being here. Well, take us back to the beginning of the story, Jerry. EMTEQ, what is it? Where did the idea come from?
You know, it's interesting because a lot of times you think of entrepreneurs and you have these crazy ideas and a lot of times it's just really common sense stuff that happens. And in my case, there's a guy who's passed away. His name is Larry Masters, who was at Gulfstream Aerospace. And he put a nugget in my ear and he said, if you ever could figure out a way to replace fluorescent tubes in airplanes, you should do it. I'm like, oh, okay. Just mental note to self. And this goes back in the early 1990s.
Okay.
So probably about 93, 94. LEDs were not around. There was just the advent of fiber optics. And I'm a finance guy, so I didn't necessarily know a lot, but just curious minds. So that's kind of, the inception of a business and then where it goes from there and how you envision things, but actually what happens, probably very similar to you, Austin, where life takes you in different paths and directions and you just capitalize on it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Do you want me to tell you more of the story?
Yeah, keep telling the story.
So how do you want me to start in the basement?
Start in the basement.
I tell Nathan to get out of the basement here pretty soon. I'll say, hey, you got to get out of the basement and live a little bit. So I was in the basement because I had another job.
Okay.
And we were trying to get funding together and trying to figure out a couple different things to do with being curious about, is there a way to solve a problem in aircraft? And I had worked in the industry. So, I knew the vertical, I knew the regulatory path, I knew certification, but didn't really know a lot about lighting or what this opportunity was. So we did a couple different research projects. We had a couple starts, a couple failures, and we kept going. But we were very, very passionate. The biggest push that I had is I was fired by the company that I worked for.
Okay.
I was down in the basement. And I always don't have the greatest attention to detail. So I dialed the wrong fax number. And I was supposed to I had my little office in the basement. I was going to fax it from home, fax machines at the time, so people might not know what a fax machine is.
Yep.
But I ended up faxing it from the company that I work for and dialed the wrong fax number. It ended up on the owner's desk. It's like, hey, you've got financing, and your financing's for $250,000. Your financing has a line of credit for like $80,000, and you said you've raised $120,000 in family and friend money, and you're our full-time sales manager. How are you going to do both? I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to do both, and I'm probably going to be quitting. He's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to fire you. I'm like,
Really?
Oh, great. The good news was I was able to collect a little bit of unemployment, which helped as I was starting the business out of the basement.
So you did raise some money. Did you have partners starting out, or what did that?
Yeah, it's always so hard. You don't know what you don't know at the time, and then you just kind of figure it out and you learn. But one partner, I think you've met him, Jim Harasha. He was a guy who was an IT manager at this company called RF Technologies. And everything happens for a reason. He worked for a company called Hughes Aircraft out in California. And he was a Platteville guy. He grew up on a farm. So if you think of people that grow up on farms, I think of like grit, hard work. I mean, this guy, and he was the youngest of 9 kids. He's having to milk the cows. He's having to do all this stuff. But he worked at Hughes. We were in the medical industry together. I worked for an aviation company doing wiring. I'm like, you worked at Hughes? Have you ever thought? He's like, I've thought about starting a business. Have you started? Yeah, I kind of thought about starting a business. He's like, I want to do an auto mechanic business. I'm like, that's stupid. Like, that's boring. Why do you want to do that? And I said, hey, there's this guy that said he had an idea for this, and maybe if we could do some other innovative products. So that's kind of the genesis of how things got started. For me, you have someone who has certain skill sets and characteristics and somebody who complements you, and it's like you become married and you're tied at the hip.
Yeah.
So I had a partner in Jim Harasha who helped me start EMTEQ Aerospace out of my basement in Wind Lake, Wisconsin in 1996.
That is awesome. That is so cool.
So then what happened? So you started in your basement. When did it start to kind of pick up? What's the timeline of that?
We have this podcast for about an hour, so I'm not going to go into it. I'll give you some inflection points. You just think of a journey. I think of 9/11. Nathan's on set with us here, and he was, he had like an eye infection or something. Like, oh my God, 9/11's happening. We got employees across the world. We're in aviation. We're going to take a crap. So we were growing a little bit. 9/11 happens. You go back down, like, oh my gosh, the Twin Towers, the aircraft just crashed in, but there's a lot of growth, a lot of fun things that happened, and then handling that adversity like a 9/11 and continually growing. So it started from nothing with literally a loan for $250,000, $120,000 line of credit, and it grew to over $103 million in revenue, and with profits of about 15%, and an exit with like 15 to 16 times EBITDA, which we're not going to get into all what those terms are. Yeah. But it's like, well, how'd you do it? Well, I did it by just listening to a lot of people and realizing what I wasn't very good at and allowing other people to do some work. And it's just a lot of drive and a lot of fun and a lot of learn. So that thing started in a basement. Headquarters went from Muskego to New Berlin, Wisconsin. We had locations in Switzerland. We had a location in Brazil. We had a location in Winnipeg. We had a location in Miami. We had a location in Great Falls, Montana. And so it was 7 total locations. We were in Montreal. Some were little mini acquisitions of locations. Others were greenfield startups, always with a defined vision. Hey, what are you doing? Where you're going? The interesting thing is we can talk about business all day long, but it's more of, I really always like to take the focus on to the people. Mm-hmm. And it's the people in the process. And when I look at what your podcast is about making it happen, entrepreneurs are like, there's like this thing associated with a serial entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. What do you think of it? When I think of an entrepreneur, what do you guys think of entrepreneurs?
Somebody that makes it happen, that enjoys building, that enjoys leading with people, creating something out of nothing, having an inner drive that motivates them beyond money and beyond what they're doing.
Yeah. So some of the higher purpose stuff. And sometimes there can be entrepreneurs, and Austin, you've been a really successful entrepreneur at a very young age, and you have so much respect and so many people that look up to you. They work for you, and they're like your dad and your mom, or you partner with your dad and your mom works for you, and you got your younger brother's working for you, etc. But they're really working with you.
Yep. 100%.
If they feel like they're working for you, it probably doesn't grow as fast.
Yep.
So the people and how you can accelerate growth through others, how you can lead others. Entrepreneur could have a bad stigma. I'm a serial entrepreneur means I start up a lot of stuff and I don't finish anything, versus having staying power, paying it forward, and then just always doing the right thing. You can win, and you can win the wrong way. And then how do you define success on your journey along the way?
Did you ever have doubts along the way that
100%.
This wasn't going to work? This isn't the right idea. I got to do something else, because you're talking about serial entrepreneurs and not finishing what you start. And it's so popular for people to just try new things, right? Every 2 to 3 years, and have this side hustle and that side hustle, instead of putting all of your time and energy into one thing for many, many years.
Right.
and mastering that. So were there times you had doubts?
Tons of times. I mean, there are times I had doubts. There are times with, not spending enough time at home with kids, how to manage your time, how to work more effectively, how to bring kids into the workplace with you on a Saturday. Because you can never get back time. And so that EMTEQ story was 18 years, but that ended in 2014. Every year there's a doubt because you're reinventing yourself, you're reinventing your business. And so I always looked at it like I wanted to work myself out of a job every year. If you have a defining purpose with what you do, it just becomes a lot easier. And then it goes back to what your values are.
Yeah.
And we talk later today, I'm going to talk a lot about values and values which drive behaviors for yourself and then for your team. But it's not just in a work environment. It could be in a not-for-profit. It could be at home with your families. It could just be a better human being.
Yeah, that's great. So early on, did you have the technical
Nope.
knowledge to develop the product, or was that more Jim, or was that somebody completely else?
That's such another good question, because if you think of it, I probably was mechanically inclined enough to be able to build the product, curious enough to be able to figure out what we needed, and then resourceful enough to partner with the right people to run a network analyzer I had no clue. I'm a finance degree, and I joke that I went to a public institution, UWM, and my grade point average was probably about a 3.0 or a 3.1, depending upon how you define it. And I hardly ever went to class. I looked what the syllabus was. I was very resourceful there, right? You might have done some of the similar things at lacrosse.
Sounds like a similar story. Probably even worse.
But exactly. If you don't know my whole story, but
Yeah.
But then you just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the fun for me is probably like the fun for you. It's rolling up your sleeves.
Yeah.
And it's just figuring it out and then getting a rush out of problems.
Yeah.
Where it's not just problem solving, but mindset. So every problem is an unsolved opportunity. And if you can program your mind to do that, then you have potential. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs, it's easy to be an entrepreneur. Everybody and their brother, they teach entrepreneurial stuff in school. I hate to say it, sometimes I think that's a joke.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're going to teach it in school. So help me understand. So who's the professor?
Yeah.
Have they built something before? Well, here's the theory as to how you do it, and here's the time frame. This is what it's supposed to take, and here's how you're going to get your investors together.
Yeah.
Just starting up a business, it's a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Not many investors would invest. The people that invested in me were family and friends. So Nathan's his aunt Chris invested $25,000. Good friend Brent Jones invested $25,000. We had other investors like that to get our investors just because they believed. And it was interesting. I didn't believe in myself, but they believed in me. I'm like, I would never have made this investment. So self-doubt.
Yeah.
I have self-doubt today.
Yeah. When you started EMTEQ, did you have a vision for what it ended up being?
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all. So our vision was, and if we look at things financially, because we had shareholders, we were going to get it to 10 million in 10 years, and we were going to exit.
Okay.
We were going to grow some. We were going to build it. We had so much fun doing it and then it had some downturns too. There was 9/11, but there also was 2008. There was a great TARP reform, maybe a little bit before your time. You guys are real estate people. You're familiar with that a little bit?
What's that?
What happened in real estate and how the real estate market crashed
in 08?
08.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it was bad. So from
Talk
08,
about that. I know there's some specific things that you did during that time.
Yeah.
Talk
So,
about that.
in 08, from my perspective, being an aerospace guy, there were certain people, certain presidents that would abuse aircraft more than other people at the time. There was, in the automotive industry, there were people that would lobby to the government to say, hey, you got to help us here because this industry is crashing. The automotive industry was crashing. But they couldn't take their private aircraft. But these were CEOs that were making really good money, and it's an efficiency tool. It's a productivity tool, but it was looked at bad. And this is during President Obama's time. So the head of state VIP aircraft, he used that aircraft a lot. And we were in private aircraft, corporate aircraft, commercial aircraft that were used for hubs. But then how do you take an opportunity like that and take it and capitalize on it? When somebody is suffering, you got to help them. And if you're willing to help people, then sometimes good things can happen from that. So we suffered with that industry for a while. There are times we thought our business was going to go out of business. I would go work in a cube next to all the other employees and not live in the corporate office. And we'd set up war rooms. We'd have thematic goals. Love Patrick Lencioni and what he talks about. So there's lots of good ways we learned more during the tough times than and I had never done it before. So I just asked for people's help. Like, hey, I've never been a CEO before. I've never worked at a company larger than, so could you help me? Because I literally don't know what I'm doing right now. Could you just help? It's amazing how magical that can do. It's actually, I'd love to help you. And I think you're a good guy. You know, we're in this together. So we're in it to win it together.
And I think there's something to be said about not trying to know it all. Right? Because just acknowledge I don't know it all.
Yep.
So
that's totally it.
But it's important to put the right people around you that do know it all. And I was having this conversation with Becca this morning actually about our bookkeeping business, and had some like legal questions. She was like, "What do you think we should do about this and our onboarding form or our engagement letter, and what language should be in them?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I know a really good attorney. So call my attorney and have him do it." So knowing the right people and knowing the resources that you have.
And not only knowing them, trusting them.
Yep.
So it's interesting. So you talk about business trust. When I think of, I'll say, hey, it's not the type of trust where it's lying, robbing, stealing, pilfering. It's the trust of, am I going to be willing to give up control of my baby? The biggest limiting factor to the growth of companies is, who do you think?
The CEO, the leader.
CEO, the leader.
Yep.
The biggest limiting. So I like look in the mirror and say, don't be the limiting factor. Don't be the limiting factor. And especially when you have tendencies that are more control tendencies, right? A little bit of restlessness, a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of rebelliousness, and then a little bit of control too. Those aren't always healthy ingredients for success.
What did you end up finding what was your strong suit as a leader? What were some things that you were naturally really good at?
That's a good question. It's always easy to look at what you're not good at and to be overly self-critical. I'm known for being a futuristic person. I'm known for being a visionary. And in some ways, it's like having this vision of predicting what the future could look like. And then I've also been told I could be inspiring at times. When there's a thing called working genius, and the ability to galvanize, the ability to get a group together is important. And one of the other characteristics is discernment. Discerning. There's so many great ideas. How do you pick the best one? How do you also simplify your plan? So then I became a professor in getting everybody on the same page in a single page. Simplifying business, simplifying your life. You have your top breakthroughs. You have your targets. You go by your values. You have your vision. You have your mission. That's literally all that you need. And it doesn't matter if it's in sports. It doesn't matter if it's sports and entertainment. It doesn't matter if it's personal goals that you have. It doesn't matter if it's for a business that you're running. It doesn't matter if it's for 5, 6, 7, 8 businesses that you're overseeing. The more you simplify it, the more you can help lead it. And then every single employee, Walt Disney said this, every single employee making a decision in the moment of truth. So allowing people to make decisions, allowing people to make mistakes. So think about that. That's hard, right? Probably for you. Like, okay, this person's going to F up and I'm going to let them. Or I'm going to let this person do something that they never thought they could do. Yesterday, we were doing something on leadership and on values. And so Nathan Jendusa is the oldest, and he works with us now. And he's a really good breakthrough champion and coach, right? So we're coaching on leadership, but it's not just leadership, it's how to apply it. So you can talk about leadership, but then how do you execute on it? And so we're going through something, and I'm like, if I'm in the room, he's not going to speak up as much. So meeting starts at 8:00. I either text him or call him. I say, yeah, I'm not going to be down there for a while. and you got to figure it out. Literally, you got to, I don't think I can do it. No, I think you can do it. And then the president called me, TJ Masterson Thomas. He called me. I'm like, I'm not picking up the phone. Literally, I'm not picking up the phone. Do I think I could do it? Hell yeah. Do I think I could be good at it? Yeah. But he's starting out. And then how'd you do? And people are like, yeah. So sometimes when you're the leader, I used to walk in rooms and people be they would stop talking. They'd look at me. I'm like, why did you look at me? well, you're going to have all the answers because you're the leader, right? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, we paid you to keep your minds, to keep your head when you come in the front door.
Yeah.
So don't leave your mind at the door because I'm just doing a role. And that's one thing I think that a lot of companies struggle with. And like, I need my role. I need to define my role. Well, maybe your role's going to change, you know, and maybe something isn't going to be scheduled. Maybe we're gonna do a couple different things on our ride to lacrosse. We're going to be interviewing a doctor for a role, and I'm going to be talking about a Make-A-Wish event, and Nathan's going to be scheduling it, and we're going to be talking about leadership and mindset, and we're just going to kind of game plan on the fly. But that was my time, because 3.5 hours, I figure I can do that then. So it's how can you be more productive, more efficient, more effective, more productive?
Yeah, that's great.
And talk really fast.
Ooh, come on, that's me. People that talk slow, I gotta think of undiagnosed ADD. I'm like, let's go. Like, if it's like a good morning, I'm like, yeah, I'm already lost. Let's go. Let's talk fast. My brain's moving way faster than your mouth.
You know, it's interesting, and that gets into if people are your most important asset, then how do you assess your people? So there's different tools. There's different things. Like, there was a time in my journey that I literally wanted to fire every single employee. Like, you suck. You suck. You suck. You're imaginary, but you suck. You suck. Everybody sucks. You're all fired. And then I had to, and so I haven't always been the nicest leader. Probably not like you. and you know, I tell you, so that was probably like 2005. So I started the business in 96, 2005. But what was really happening, I was under a lot of stress. And I didn't know the people. The company's growing. People are in different roles as things grow. Some people like to talk slow. Some people like to talk next water fountain. Some people like to talk fast. Some people need a quick executive summary. They're not going to get into the details. So the more that you understand the human mind, the more you understand natural tendencies of people, the more you can better appreciate how to utilize each other's skill sets to build something and make it happen together. So you have employees, and you have certain employees, and you understand what their gifts are. And instead of getting people to focus always on their weaknesses, get them to focus on their gifts. And so if you guys are on a podcast, you're probably pretty good at talking. Yeah. And you probably really want to share information with others. So you want to teach. And you're probably part of the association that you're part of because you just have this passionate mindset about what it is you're doing. Yep. And then that attracts people to you. Unintentional. It's not like, I'm going to be a leader. I woke up this morning. I said, I'm going to be a leader.
Right.
Nathan said, hey, you're actually a pretty good coach. I'm like, yeah, I'm really not that good. I have the patience to do it. I'm like, but thank you.
But that's just another side of discernment, though, because you talk about discernment of what product's the best, like the business side, but the leader so often is discerning. Can I pull out what's good that maybe even this employee doesn't see?
Yeah.
Bring out what's good in them. Be able to discern like who they are as a person, so that I can put them in the right position, and then they can excel. Because you were talking about that too. Of I don't want to show up because there is that, like, when the leader doesn't come, the employee then has to take on this other authority. I can't use the boss as a crutch. And you do see them rise because now there's a little bit of, ownership. They have a little bit of ownership on it.
Yep.
And so that's just another side of discernment, which, like you said,
and instead of looking up, looking out, right? Because if you're looking out to serve others, you're not looking up to please the boss. And so the other thing I'll say is, hey, if you work for me and you're looking at, and they actually do please me, but I always say it as a point. If you're looking up to me, you'll never please me, so please don't look up to me. Like, you got to do this for yourself, because this isn't about me. This is about you developing you. So I can only do so much, and then it's really up to you to kind of, take care of yourself. And whether your mental health or you're working out, or it's how you treat others, or are you a narcissist? Are you not? What fills up your cup? What brings you great joy? And then trying to put people into roles as to what causes them to have the great joy. And then values, though. Yeah. You talk about values, like, hey, what are your values? And do all the employees, do you know what your values are? If you're talking about employees, you're talking about a team. Does your team know what you value? But then you have to hire to those values. You have to recruit to those values. You have to attract and develop and retain, or exit to those values. So there's a whole nother thing on, and I know I ramble a lot, but it's about the same themes, attributes versus skill sets, right? And so when we think of that, when I think of Austin, and I don't know you as well, so
nobody
does. Too early. You're too early to tell. You'll be that for a while, but we'll be analyzing you and assessing you along the way.
It's good. I hope I grade out all right.
We're gonna get inside your head.
Right.
Good
We're gonna
luck.
play.
It's a mess.
We're gonna play mind games with you.
It's scary in there. Take one day.
You should see what's in my head. I don't even know. I got like chase squirrels. Like I literally chase squirrels all day long.
Yep. I've joked with people. I'm like, just one day. Like Austin hears it. These little just one-offs, just
like
quick.
nuggets.
I
Like
hear 'em.
nuggets.
They're usually just jokes. Like somebody will say something that's like a normal thing, and I'll just make a sub joke to it. I'm like, you guys are only hearing the 10%. Like those things are popping all
That's
the time.
it.
I'm like, just live a day inside my brain. It's like just sifting through this mess of mainly just jokes, but sometimes others. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
It's fun.
It's awesome. So you talked about discernment. You talk about galvanizing. You're leading people that way. Talk about values, and then like purpose. So values kind of go into your purpose, and it goes into your vision and your mission. And once you accomplish your mission, you've come at your vision, and so then that becomes your ground and your guiding light. And so like I'm wearing something today, and it's about Mogul for Wishes. And we got something on here for Make-A-Wish. We got something on here for Pat Connaughton Foundation. We have something on here about Do More Together. And then we have the Fast M on the back for Mogul.
Pat Connaughton, like the basketball player?
Basketball player, Pat Connaughton. So he's coming tonight.
Playoff Pat.
Playoff Pat, PC, Planet Pat.
Love Pat Connaughton.
He's awesome. He's a greater human being, and he's a really good basketball player. He's a really good athlete. But he's just a really good guy. And so he gets it.
Sounds like a good podcast guest.
He could be a good. Now he'd be a little bit more popular than me. His time schedule, you go through Skylar, you try to get at him, but you'll make that happen as well.
Cool. So you sell EMTEQ, Jerry. This is something you've been building from your basement for 18 years. What does that feel like the next day, the next week, the next month? Like, what does that feel like?
It's really interesting. And so for starters, like nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's congratulating you.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
No one's going to, because you just made a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Like literally. So this is the success story. So the company, we had such a cool culture. They offered me a job in a different division to lead a division. The owners, the Corey brothers, publicly traded company, flew in on their private jet on a Gulfstream. Talked to me. I said no thank you to the role, and they wanted me out. Like, so literally, like, hey, you gotta. And I'm a single dad at the time. I got to work from home, so I'm working at the lake house, and I can't come into the office. They have me doing like the shittiest tasks you could imagine, and I'm a little pissed. Like number one, I'm feeling sorry for myself, so sometimes I cry. It's like my baby that we gave away, and then part of me I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Like I'm crying, and then I'm pissed. And because we had 660 employees.
Wow.
I mean, we had 100 plus people in Brazil, in Taubaté, Brazil. We had 20 some people in Switzerland. We had people in Winnipeg. We had people. You don't feel responsible for them, but you feel like I want to be able to communicate, and I can help integrate this, and we want to make this a great experience because we're here to serve these employees.
Yeah.
But you sell it. You hate to say this. They literally didn't care about the employees. I mean, they didn't care. And you're like, but I sold it. And nobody's going to feel sorry for me. Yeah. But then I had to get over myself. So then it's like, okay, I got to stop feeling sorry for myself. And then look back at what was some of the impact that we had? How many leaders did we develop? And then Paul Scholes, who was an organization, you might have met Paul, organizational development guy, for me, and then he ran Unstuck coaching for a while, which I bought, and it's now part of BreakthrU. But we started calculating and analyzing all the leaders in their different roles, and then it was like, okay, it took me a while, and sometimes I still feel sorry for myself. But the 5-year reunion was a blast. In fact, 2 nights ago, like 2 a.m, I get up on LinkedIn, and I've still got all the messages I'm like, hey, 10-year, June 2nd, 2024, man, we're having a huge party. And all the people that are responding. So we're all still friends.
That's cool.
And we share memories, and we tell stories, and sometimes it's hard because it's like, but it's like, you know what? I'm not done. I mean, we can do this again. Yeah. So that you go through that. There's this recent thing where, and I was honored to get what's called a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the guy who gave me the award, I go, I'm not accepting this award. And Rachel Barr, who works, she's like, yeah, typical Jerry. He's not. I'm like, I'm going to rename the award, and I'm going to call it a half of a Lifetime Achievement Award because I'm not done yet, like literally. And then I posted on my LinkedIn a picture of my Lincoln Navigator in the parking lot of our Muskego Biotech building by itself, and I just said, I'm not done yet, like literally, and wanted to put it out there to the world to say we got more stuff to do. We have more people to grow, more things to grow, and be involved in building things. So you kind of got to get over yourself a little bit. You can't think that you've arrived, and the day that you feel you've arrived is kind of the day that you have to get out, right? Yeah. Some of the leaders, you get up to corporate levels, and like they'll say, yeah, we don't need that leadership stuff. That's for the other guys because we already know it. And I'm like, okay, it starts with you. Yeah. It starts with the coach.
Yeah. What is that motivating factor for you now? Like, you sold the business for an extreme amount of money. You could obviously retire and be done, right?
Yep.
A lot of people strive to have enough money to retire. What drives you now? You're involved with multiple different companies. You're acquiring new companies. You're investing in new companies. You're helping and coaching entrepreneurs and small businesses, and you could make an argument that you're busier now than you probably were.
I probably, in some ways I probably am.
Where does that motivation come from?
It's interesting. So you think about it, comes from your vision, comes from what your values are. And so if we're able to make this world a little bit better of a place, one leader at a time, that's what we're out to do. And so, it, yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Well, changing topics a little bit. So obviously you're doing a lot more stuff now, doing different things than selling the company. What are some of the organizations and things that you're affiliated with? I know Make-A-Wish and some other things, right? What are some of those?
So we've got, so there's a company called Zyogenics, and Zyogenics is in regenerative medicine. In fact, Luke worked there as an intern for a bit. That's right in Muskego, and it's drug therapies, advanced therapies. You think of PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. You think of stem cells and some of the cool things that are going on there. We're dealing with companion animals with dogs and with horses down at Arden Animal Health, and it's also with regenerative medicine with stem cells. Companion animals, the way pets work with humans is magical. We got a company in Madison called Vendura Industries that's involved with solid surface materials, mental behavioral health facilities, medical institutions. And we have a coaching business called Blue. And if you think of that as we grow leaders, we're growing our own leaders, and then we're growing other companies and other companies' leaders, and we're spreading that and using some of those same tools. We got a little bit of things going on with real estate. From a foundation standpoint, we don't have our own foundation, but we have a donor advised fund, and we get our family together for that. So we do things with Make-A-Wish. We do things with Children's of Wisconsin. Why was I having a brain fart with Children's of Wisconsin? It's because I started to tear up before. You made me cry back. Why did you make me cry? You always make me cry. I don't even know who you are. I don't remember your name. You made me cry.
He just has that effect.
Children's of Wisconsin, the Make-A-Wish thing, Mugwanago. There's some really cool things in Mugwanago.
Yeah.
When you blew, and we talk about this a little bit later. I might be talking about it tonight. You blew out your knee.
Yep.
What year was that?
2014.
2014. So
13, 14, somewhere in there.
After you blew out your knee, Clay Iverson, Andy Trudell, who's the guy, the Braves guy, Craig Verts.
Yep.
So those guys sat down with me and said, "Hey, we need a football field." Do you remember that?
I didn't know at the time that all that happened.
That because of you.
Briefly knew about it. Yeah.
You were that star. You were that much of a star player. I think you might have started your sophomore year, and you're a linebacker. You're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
But there's stories that happen, and then there's these impacts and these inflection points that happen. From there, a field, Pat Connaughton does courts, and it's about character. And so it's about community and it's about character. We're putting a basket. So that football field, the Jendusa family was involved with helping with put that field in.
Very cool.
Yep. And we didn't necessarily need any recognition for it because what's going to happen. And then Josh breaks his neck and wasn't going to play on the field.
Yeah.
And then he was able to play. So now I got the thing going on at the PRP. We got some things going on at drug therapy with stem cell and Josh's middle son, who now works for Zyogenics. So you see how things drive behaviors. But we're putting a basketball court next to the library.
Really?
In Mugwanago with Pat Connaughton. And it's about character associated with the school and associated with Make-A-Wish.
Cool.
We have kids. We'll have 450 kids, developing them as leaders tonight, having fun with skills competitions. And it's just not about basketball anymore. It's like track and field, and it's dance, and it's band, and it's junior Indian stuff. So it's getting this whole community together. A guy you should have in your podcast is Rick Whitty, Coach Whitty.
That does sound familiar.
He has this theory of E plus R equals O. And he's a math teacher, but he's a leadership guy. And it's all about mindset. You have an event. As a human being, you respond to an event, and you get an outcome. Every single day, life is that simple. And you have an event, you have a response, you have an outcome. So how do you have adversity? How do you handle challenges, right? Kids in school, I got to do this Make-A-Wish thing. I got to do pledges. What does that mean? So you see where I'm going with this whole thing, and I know I got lost in the thought a little bit, but philanthropy as a part of what we do, connecting everything together, connecting our own family together as to just try to develop our kids a little bit, try to develop ourselves, try to develop our family of companies, and then the communities that we impact.
So going off that word philanthropy, has that always been a part of your business, even when you were early starting up? Because this is like a topic I like to talk about.
I love it.
Because were you always generous even before making it big?
No. So it's interesting. So here, I get involved in philanthropy in a really weird way. Okay. So we're at EMTEQ. I forget the year. It's at Edgewood Golf Course. And there's a bunch of employees, and they say, hey, we want to do a golf event. I'm like, okay, and so you want me to pay for it? Yeah, that would be a great idea. Okay, so we're going to do a golf event. I'm going to pay for it. So if I'm going to do that, you're going to have to do something for us and for the company. I said, why don't we do something where we do a charity event, and let's just pick a cause. Didn't even have a clue as to what cause we were going to pick. I'm like, why don't you guys just pick it, and we'll just pick one. And Children's of Wisconsin is interesting. You were with Joey when Joey broke his elbow. Yep. You probably felt really bad about that. He came back and he was like sniffling.
Yeah.
I'm like, you better not be faking it, Joe. And he actually broke his elbow in a go-kart accident with Austin, of all things. I can't believe you did that to Joey. Little baby Joey broke his elbow. But we've had kids. Josh breaks his femur.
Yeah.
We've had, I think Nathan's the one that wasn't really at Children's. But anyway, so we pick a cause. And the cause ends up being child abuse and prevention at Children's of Wisconsin. Like, well, if we're going to do it, we have to build it, right? Because we're involved in making it happen. We're involved in building things. But then you get great joy out of doing it. So then this little event, and I was the auctioneer the first year, and it was like, I don't know, $2,500, and we paid for the golf, and we had fun. I'm like, oh, we're going to do it again. Because if you're a leader, you have to systemically do things. You have to consistently behave in a certain way. So we did that. It was actually 2004, because the last year we did it was in 2014. We sold our business June 2nd of 2014. So from 2004 to 2014, we did an event. That was a third-party event. We ended up raising over $750,000 for Children's of Wisconsin for a child abuse and prevention fund. And we were the largest third-party fundraiser in Wisconsin for Children's of Wisconsin. And we just started out doing it like we're just having fun. Then we did a supplier symposium around it, and we got sponsors and all the stuff that you can do to, so like we helped Pat Connaughton with his golf event for the first time. Now he knows more wealthy people than me. He was 200 grand, like 180 grand his first year. Son of a gun. We got to beat that. But you know, so that's, do you learn philanthropy? No. You just kind of do it. And then when you do it and you feel good about yourself, so you almost do it for selfish reasons, right? Like when you take some of the youth hunters.
I was just going to talk about that. Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that a little? I know I'm being interviewed, but I want to listen about you.
I always say, I mean, we had Ray on, and I said, I think I get more out of it than the kid does.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy being out in the outdoors as much as anybody else, and just seeing the impact that I'm able to have on kids just by making little deposits in their life and doing things that I'm already doing, going hunting, going fishing, like doing the stuff that I'm already doing, just sending a message and bringing a kid along, and the impact that you can have on them for somebody that doesn't have a father figure in their life, and they would never have an opportunity to shoot a gun or to go in the woods or to go up north and do these things. I get way more out of it than
what they do. And so you're just doing it. You're having fun. You're doing it for the right reasons. And people are like, oh my God, do you see Austin doing that?
Yeah.
He's probably not doing it with cameras on him. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because philanthropy, that's another question.
Yeah.
You know, do you use a platform to get other people to follow? And because sometimes it's like, okay, you're doing this, you feel a little weird. Like, hey, the Jendusa family did blank. We gave blank amount of money to this. Now you're kind of a target where other people can hit you up for money.
Yeah.
Then people look at you like, oh, they're just bragging. But you can't get people to follow unless they know how you're leading. So then you have to be kind of and Nathan, this is like our drive up, like being uncomfortable. It's really, right? It's hard because you're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get hit up, and I have to really be good at saying no. Or here's what our vision is. And we're aligning our vision with kids. We're aligning our vision with what's going on here. We've got our hearts in Mugwanago based on some of the stories that I told, like about, you know, Josh with his neck and how that community came together for us. And then some of the other things we're doing with Make-A-Wish with Children's and with the Pat Connaughton Foundation.
So seeing that the impact and just the incredible blessing that you've been to other people, would you change how you did it or when you started doing it?
100%. So if you think about it, you learn and then you adapt. So sometimes we have a saying in one of our businesses: you disrupt, you create, and you advance. So you always learn. And if you want to be a better version of yourself, you would hopefully do it differently. And so even leading certain companies today or working with certain leaders, you just always have to be very thoughtful and very mindful as to allowing people to lead the way that they want to lead.
Yeah.
And allowing things to really kind of grow, because you're like planting little seeds around and you're allowing those seeds to grow a little bit.
Yeah, because a lot of people think like, I'm gonna give when I make it, right?
Yeah.
When I sell the business, when I have $100,000, then I'm gonna donate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's
that was going to be what I was going to talk. It's this concept that I've talked to a lot of people about it, and just even recently continue to wrestle with that concept. Just within business, everybody has this different definition of philanthropy and giving and being generous, but it's always, when does it start?
Yeah.
And it's usually after my needs are met. And I look at it like, okay, there's a bunch of people out there that are thirsty. I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to give them water, like I'm filling up my cup, my cup overflows.
That's it.
And then I say, okay, you guys come drink. Like I got more because I'm good now. I'm taken care of. That's not generosity. That's overflow. That's excess.
Yeah.
Like being generous is, I have a little bit of water. I'm going to give you guys the water that I have.
Right.
The little bit that I have. Not, okay, I want to hit X amount. Once I hit anything over X amount, I'll give it away.
Well,
that's just not.
It's not. So that's an interesting discussion. And to your point, some people would say first margin and then mission. I say your mission leads to margin. And that money is a lagging indicator of just doing the right thing and doing it well and doing it with others. Yeah. And like relentlessly pursuing, like you got to want to be great though, right? You have to, like we talk about building high performing teams. And it's interesting because you think with your head, you feel with your heart, and your grit is in your hands. It's in the work that you do. Like Austin has the grit in his hands for sure, but he also is very thoughtful with his heart, and then he's got to think with his head. So you kind of have to do all three. Certain people say, oh, I just want to think with my heart only. Okay, I want to give away everything I have, but you don't have anything. So how can you give? Well, I can volunteer. I'm like, yeah, that's good. But we also need money, right? To really activate things, even not for profits, you need money. But then the great joy you get is not on just giving the money. It's about the work that you put in that causes the great joy. So it's about the smile that you put on a kid's face. Or tonight when we do the thing at Make-A-Wish, there's a kid last year, his name was Juan Pablo, and he smiled because he's got a professional athlete there. Or another kid who had like muscular dystrophy, and he had never really had a certain gesture, and he did that night, and his mom's sending you a text. You're like, oh, okay, that's why I'm doing this. But then we got to get our family involved. So it's you can do it for one reason, and then the limelight they typically want to put on me because of the success, and that's okay. But also it's developing the kids as leaders. And last year Joey spoke really well and articulately, and Josh spoke. Nathan wasn't there; he didn't get a chance to speak. He's going to be speaking a little bit tonight. There was some big Make-A-Wish thing that we won. You win these awards, and you're like, okay, are you doing it to win awards, or are you doing it for other reasons? And you always turn your phone off when you win these things.
No, that's awesome. I think generosity in that is it starts today, and it's a mindset now, because it's you either have that or you don't. Because if it's always going to be based on a target, then that target's going to move the same way. Because giving, it's like, okay, once I make this much, your lifestyle adjusts to it. Then your lifestyle adjusts to it. The target's always going to move. Like
your lifestyle adjusts to everything. Like how much you spend and how much you
how
give.
you set your heart. Like, I believe generosity is that. Otherwise, you're going to always just have a moving target.
That's it. And then if you are willing to get better every day, you're willing to get better every year, then good things might happen, bad things might happen. How you handle some of the bad things are part of it as well. So it's interesting. The other thing is when I think of a single page plan, and I think of these teams and this work and a great place to be or a great place to work, and you set some targets, or you set some goals, or you set some initiatives based on the act of giving. And then some people might do it, oh, we're going to do this because we're just doing it for recruiting.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a marketing fad, a campaign, or a flavor of the day. So you really have to do it from within, because people read right through leaders that are doing it for cheesy reasons, to climb a corporate ladder and to recruit talent, or people that are doing it because they just genuinely care.
For sure.
100%. Awesome.
So Jerry, you are pretty much a TV star. Project Pitch It. That's
huge.
Which
That's
is
the rumor.
That's the rumor, man. Project
You're
Pitch
not
It.
pretty much.
Baby.
You are.
Oh yeah, rock star.
For people who don't know, it's Milwaukee's version of Shark Tank, right? So
yeah.
You're a shark. You invest in companies and entrepreneurs that come on the show.
We're like little goldfish.
Okay.
We're like little baby Shark Tank. Those are the Mark Cuban is a heavy hitter. We're like little babies.
Well, let me give you this pitch. Real quick.
Got the checkbook. Hang on.
Right.
Got the checkbook.
So when you acquire these new companies or you invest in these new companies, what are the first things that you look at to identify how this company can grow?
Well, so just to backtrack a little bit. So the 8th season of Project Pitch It is going to be releasing, I think, this March. I think it is televised up in La Crosse.
Is it? Cool.
And when I look at, sometimes TV shows a little bit made for TV, and there's some really good feel-good stories, and there's things like that. So we're giving them a little bit of cash, but we're really developing them. So it's a little different than Shark Tank in that regard. I have invested in a couple of businesses. I've given a couple of businesses money that I've been on.
Sure.
But it's more mentorship and it's more advice. And it's more like really assessing, like, okay, so you said you're going to do this. Like, how committed are you? Did you quit your job yet? Or, no, I'm just still kind of doing it part-time. Okay. Well, when you do things part-time, do you realize success? No, not really. Okay, so when are you going to quit your job, right? So sometimes it's vetting, it's assessment, or it's a certain idea. It's interesting because people come up with ideas, but it's not the ideas for me. It's the people that came up with the ideas, or the people that are resourceful enough. Are they going to make it? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, but it's a lot of fun. And Bev Greenberg was the one who kind of inspired me to do it. And then there's kids on the show. There's some kids from Arrowhead High School. There's other kids that are pitching some of their ideas, and that's really a lot of fun. And then there's startup businesses. There's businesses that are further along.
Super cool.
So how many seasons?
This is the 8th season, so I've been part of this crew for 8. We got David Gruber on
Yep.
there.
Any
Well,
Emmys or
that's
anything coming down the pipeline? Speaking of awards,
oh
you
my
know?
God! Like Bev uses me to kind of rally the troops a little bit to coordinate, so we end on time, and we film in a week, and we get done.
Cool.
And I get makeup put on,
Really?
which is a little weird. Yeah, a little makeup.
Me and Austin both wear it for the
Yeah, you should be. I mean, you not awesome, but you, I don't know.
you know, it's foundation, mascara, the
Right.
necessities. So
What about some of these other companies, though, like your biotech companies that you've purchased, acquired, or invested in? What are some things that you look at in those companies
Okay.
right away?
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. We look at the industries that they're in. We look at the leadership teams. Sometimes we have to make tough decisions. We look at the product or service that they have. We look at the margin. So you can just think of we look at the culture. Culture is really important. We assess talent. So all of those types of things. We look at if it's a manufacturing company, look at their manufacturing processes. We look at their accounting systems. We have to look at everything.
Yeah.
And oftentimes there's a lot of skeletons in the closet of businesses that you buy and integrate.
Really?
Have you bought a company yet?
I have not.
When are you going to
It's
buy
on the
one?
list.
You got to buy a
It's
company.
on the list.
But we can talk about that. But then FAQs, frequently asked questions, and how to integrate, and there's a lot of stuff that people technically look at. Most importantly, what are the values? What's the culture? Do they have a product that actually can have a level of a margin? And then what do we do with it? But we've done things. There's a tool and die company. So your dad used to work for LifeCell,
Yep.
which is now part of ADV.
Yep.
So ADV manufactures human skin for burn victims or certain situations like that. We have automated presses, and this is a tool and die shop that we totally pivoted. This is the same company that I was talking about that's doing regenerative medicine. So we had to soft land a whole bunch of clients that were tool and die clients, and we're saying we're only doing medical. So we're only dealing with regulatory. We're dealing with FDA. We want niches. We want little verticals, niches. We want new markets. A thing everybody else likes too. So
Yeah.
But so it's interesting, right? So that's, we're processing human bones. That sounds kind of weird.
sure does.
We're taking a femur and we're taking the fragments out of the femur. So those bone particulates could be used to accelerate and regenerate surgery when it's an orthopedic surgery.
Pretty amazing.
Cool.
It's fun
That's
stuff.
crazy.
Are there
People-
any like amazing, cool success stories out of any of the companies you've invested in that come to mind?
Every day there's success stories, but as far as ones that are nothing, it's just little wins.
Yeah.
Little wins. I mean, just to give you an appreciation. So we have a dog, Blaze, and Blaze is a chocolate lab, and
Okay.
he's a hunting dog, right? And he ended up with a certain challenge, and so stem cells for Blaze helped Blaze walk again, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So regenerative medicine, but we see those stories from these pet owners where they're like, I just want a little bit more time with my pet. And then those are really magical stories. So those are fun ones. Or there's a cancer survivor where nothing else was working and they're going through chemo, they're going through radiation, and they're using a certain type of regenerative medicine with cell and gene therapy, and they were cured from cancer.
Wow.
So those are the things that kind of fill our cup. And a lot of those Wish kids, they're cancer survivors. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Are there any daily disciplines or habits or weekly disciplines or habits that have been foundational to your success?
I think so. Yeah. Routines are important. So for me, it's a certain workout routine in the morning. It's a certain walk. So it's all about like your cadence, your habits, your flow. When I get out of that habit, I'm not as productive. We as human beings, and we teach on this a little bit. And, are you above the line or are you below the line? And how do you get yourself to be above the line? How do you change that mindset? The other thing is just the discipline and rigor, weekly huddles, monthly review, quarterly kickoffs. Like, hey, we're going to win. We use a lot of sports analogies. We're going to win the quarter. How are we going to win the quarter? So you don't just beat people up for numbers as a board advisor. It's more as a mentor, as a friend, as an advisor, as a champion than the traditional board. So we call it an alternative board. So those are all kind of those habits that you form Have you read the book Atomic Habits?
I have. Great book.
You love it?
Yep.
Have you read it?
I don't read.
Audio. No excuses.
It's great.
Okay.
Really good.
But he's habit stacking and
Yep.
different things. So we're teaching a little bit on habits from that. Because you can have the best plans in the world. You don't have the good habits. It's not going to be successful. So you do a podcast. What's your cadence?
Yep.
What's your content? Who's your audience? What are you doing? So that all gets into those daily routines that sometimes turn into weekly routines that then it turns into Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
And that's how you execute together as a team.
And that can be a challenge for the squirrel chasers.
Oh,
right? For the entrepreneur who's got all the ideas and
Huge
like
challenge.
creating order out of your
Yep.
chaos in your life. But that's if you use those as building blocks, like you said, stacking those habits.
Yep. And then if
That's
some
where
of your
growth
team
happens.
can if the team feels comfortable enough with Austin, where they can say, Austin, cut it out.
No kidding.
CTS, cut the shit.
Yeah.
You're chasing.
I'm going to use that.
Let's stay
Yeah.
grounded here, and you said, no, this is what you said. You said we're going to focus here. So how do we focus there?
Yeah.
But you need the Austins of the world that might have this entrepreneurial mindset. And then how do you form a team around that? And maybe that's not Austin. Maybe it's someone else. But that was just an example.
He's got good habits. I think he's going to be saying CTS to me. Keegan.
That's a good one.
I'm going to
That's a
get
good
a
one
daily
for me.
text from Austin. CTS. I'm going to say fair enough.
Well, Jerry, we really appreciate you being here. If you want our listeners to get one thing out of this episode, you want to leave them with one word of wisdom, what is that?
It would be just to celebrate life and to enjoy it every single day and try to live it to the fullest while you're doing things that you really enjoy doing. It sounds really, really simple,
Yeah.
but just enjoy it. Just have fun.
Yeah.
Laugh. Laughter is really huge. Chemically in your brain, it releases certain things with
That's why
endorphins and
Keegan's
things
here.
like that. That's why Keegan's makes you laugh.
For the jokes.
I love laughter.
That's what I told Paul Scholes. I'm like, yeah, hey, I don't know if I like your skill set very much, but you really make me laugh. So can you come work?
That's the only reason that I'm still.
And Paul gets so mad at me. I don't know why Paul gets mad.
He still has me around.
And then
That's
Paul's
great.
like, you say it all the time. You put it on shows and you're out there with. I'm like, but I'm just kidding. But they don't know that, Jerry. They don't know that.
Right.
But no, just enjoy life a little bit.
Awesome. And you do have a book that we talked about the single page plan and stuff like that called
Get Unstuck.
Get Unstuck.
And so that's available on Amazon.
Cool.
We're crafting another book where there's going to be 6 different authors in the book.
Cool.
A little bit on leadership, a little bit on mindset, a little bit on the journeys of some certain presidents and CEOs. So we're looking forward to that. We got a big thing we're really excited about, and it's called BreakthrU, and it's BreakthrU Leadership University. So the brand is BreakthrU, and we feel we can have a lot of impact on this world through BreakthrU.
Awesome. Very cool. And you're a big LinkedIn guy, so if people want to follow you or see
Yeah.
what you're up to, LinkedIn would be the best place,
LinkedIn,
probably.
Jerry Jendusa, do a search for that. We'll
Okay.
definitely connect.
Yeah, we'll attach something below.
A lot of emojis, a lot of weird emojis. I use the brain and the heart. And the kids are like, Dad, why do you use all those emojis? It's so unprofessional. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, it's fun.
Soon I'm going to be wearing a diaper anyway, so it doesn't matter.
See, I have an emoji of the year, and I just use that one. Doesn't matter
I love
the
it.
context. I always the one with the glasses with the nerdy little 2 teeth. I do that to anything. Or if there's an awkward conversation, I'll just send that emoji, no words.
Keegan, for me, my famous emoji is a poop one.
There you go.
So
Everybody's got their go-to emoji.
It's all
Great
about, it's all
ending.
about poop.
This was a
All right?
Thanks for being here, Jerry.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We sincerely hope that you found value in today's episode and heard one thing that you can take back and implement into your life today. As always, we appreciate your support and hope you can all find a way to pay it forward this week.